Oh, what's up, everybody? Welcome to SnailMail.
Start over.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to SnailMail.
Sorry.
I put all my energy into that first one, Jimmy.
I'm sorry.
Jesus Christ.
You started too early. I didn't hit the big green button. That turns red when we're ready.
I do have an issue with like premature starting, so
Or premature finishing.
it comes with the territory. Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome everybody.
With one comes the other. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, at least you have one trophy out of it.
Yay! I proved that I'm not innocent. Sort of.
Innocent?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if innocent would be the right.
Yeah, I was trying to think about that. I was like, I don't think that's the right word.
No.
I don't know what the right word would be.
A virgin.
I guess so, yeah. That works. I mean, it could be the mailman. So I don't know.
I know. We could do a DNA test and find out.
Yeah,
otherwise.
do a DNA test later.
Anyways, welcome to Snail Mail, everybody. That was a random start. Tyler started up and I said, wait. And I had to hit the start button. So then he got all depressed.
He didn't hit the record button before I did the intro.
No.
So
maybe I'll leave the first part in on the video because the video was actually going.
Okay. All right. Then everybody gets it. They have to go watch the video to understand. Friday. Happy Friday, everyone.
Yeah. Congratulations. You made it through a week.
You did. Hopefully you're going to make it through the weekend. One thing I wanted to mention really quick. Because I forgot to mention on Thursday.
Okay.
Congratulations for getting the 4th gen Tacoma panels launched.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. That's big. I think that's going to be huge. I think it's going to be a good market.
Yep.
And any truck that comes with wavy tailgate sucks. So it's terrible.
Yeah, it does. And the waviness that happens underneath the stock plastic part sucks too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this one was a really big pain in the ass. And I did have it. I thought I had it dialed in, and then I sent it out to Conrad from Trail Tacoma, and he used it for a week or so. And he's like, you need to add more bolt holes, man. Like, because I did half. I did like 6 of the, maybe I did 8 of the 16 hole locations. And I was like, I don't need it. Like, cause it's just holding it down. Right.
Yeah.
Like it's not taking a lot of stress. I don't need all this extra weight. And he said that parts of it were like buckling between the bolts. And I was like, okay, fine. So I had to go back to the drying board, do it all over again. And then last minute, I was like, okay, panels are going to get to me. And I was like, oh crap, I need these plastic inserts.
Oh yeah.
And then I was like, so then I had to order up these plastic insert pieces. And really I'm ordering a sheet of plastic, like ABS, just less than a 1/16 of an inch thick pieces of plastic, and then cutting it all on my laser.
Yeah.
And so that I could cut one, no problem. But then when I made it so I could cut 5 on a sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And that took a little bit of getting a little bit of a learning curve to get. I did have some plastic on fire inside my laser, which was interesting. So good thing I didn't randomly walk away.
Yeah.
But everything's good. Everything's going. I shipped a bunch out this week. Nice. So I'm excited to have them hit the market and see everybody's feedback and hear what people say about it.
Yep.
And thank you.
Is there option for cup holders in the
a cup holder is coming in the future.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's going to be in the tailgate or not, but I was talking to my buddy Jimbo.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to make you some billet aluminum cup holders.
Wow. Okay.
He said, send me the bolt hole locations.
Yeah.
And he'll make it work.
Nice.
So we'll have some cup holders on the market eventually.
Oh, that's funny.
I have no idea what those are going to cost, but
they're going to be super nice.
They're going to be super nice.
That's funny.
So that'll be fun.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's really neat to see those finally launched. So
yeah,
I'm excited you get a bunch of orders right away. So
yeah, that's good. I also have the 1st gen Tundra and a 19 F-150. No. Yeah. F-150 panels in the works that are damn close.
Sweet.
Like the guy, Ryan has been meeting up with me, and he has the 19 F-150, and he took the old panel that wasn't exactly right, and he just cleaned it up a little bit, and it fits fine on his tailgate. So that's how close that panel is. And then I made the modifications on my end. So I just need to get one more final prototype on each ones of those. And I think then I can start that production as well.
Cool.
Which I don't think the first gen Tundra is going to be a big market, but I did have somebody reach out that wanted to do a Tundra group buy. And so I wanted to fulfill that line. Yeah. And then I think the Ford market's going to be really good. I think
F-150 market will be huge.
F-150 market's going to be really big. I wanted my goal, and I don't know with everything going on in my life, but my goal at least is to get all the full size vehicles. The F-150 and 250 and 350 current year, and same for Dodges and Chevys. Get all those out this year would be fantastic, but I don't know if it's possible.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. So yeah, just wanted to put out there. I meant to say it on Thursday and got sidetracked with the show. So
yeah, it happens.
So today we're going to do some voicemails for you guys.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're all connected.
All right. Volume's up.
Yep. Who do we got coming up here first? We have, we have 25.
Oh man.
Thought we had that below 20.
We probably did.
Yeah. We have Richard.
Richard
again. Yeah, because his first voicemail did not get a transcript. So his second voicemail, he called back because he hit the 3-minute mark.
Oh, one of those. He said, two Richards?
Yeah, he said, hey, Richard again.
All right.
Richard again.
Cool.
See what he's got.
Alrighty, Richard.
Hey, Tyler, Jimmy. It's Richard down here in Atlanta again.
Richard.
I just wanted to hit on a couple random topics for you guys. The first one was all the talk about tools, out on the trail. And I've heard, I guess, throughout several different episodes about people, use what tools are specific to your vehicle and, just taking those tools. That way, I guess you're saving weight or space and all the things. I just kind of roll with one of those actual roll-up tool bags. I bought it separately and kind of, have some generic tools in it, Harbor Freight tools, some specific stuff, but nothing specific for just one vehicle. That's the same tool bag that, I throw in our family hauler whenever we go, to the beach, or, I'll throw in my Super Duty when we're, taking the boat out of state or going out for a weekend, using the truck, or, maybe the racetrack or something like that. So, just kind of another line of thinking. I think, I could definitely make that tool bag, lighter if I just kept it specific for parts to service, our Jeep. I know it's like, owning a Toyota, you probably just need I don't even know what tools you carry because, supposedly they're so reliable, right? But anyway, just wanted to share some thoughts on that. I mean, I'm not going to take tools out of my tool bag, and in the event I need to help somebody else out on the trail, say it was a Toyota or something, if I just had sizes specific for a Jeep that I didn't know would otherwise work on another vehicle. Just another line of thinking with that. The other thing is, it took me a minute. I know you guys, I kind of stumbled into SnailTrail through the High Sierra, and I did listen back to those episodes some time ago, the podcast of High Sierra. Can y'all go over what happened with that again? I know there was somebody moved from, was it the East Coast out to the Northwest Coast or something, and now y'all are together. But I started following the High Sierra guy some time ago back on Instagram, and I was like, man, how are these guys, having these podcasts from so far away and everything? And then, I just kind of put it all together in my head. So I guess I'm an idiot for just now finding that out. But that was just a couple quick topics to catch you all up on kind of what I was thinking. The one last thing, you're with the YouTube channel. I noticed y'all, obviously filming the podcast. Is there a difference in recording equipment that you guys typically use? It seems like you guys are really hand heavy with the microphones and stuff versus having the table mount thing or, some of the other podcasts. I guess that's an expense thing, or just, I totally don't know anything about audio type equipment and how you guys create the podcast. And you guys do a great job in what seems like kind of a
You're done, Richard Atlanta.
Let's just answer the two that he talked about, and then we'll listen to his closing remarks about the last one about podcasting.
Okay.
let's see, he started about carrying all tools, more or less. Makes sense. I think that, it's just a lot of people, usually you're wheeling with the same crowd. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, you're either wheeling with Toyotas, you're wheeling with Jeeps, and, sometimes it's all mixed up. And if you're wheeling with a mixed up group, then usually Jeep people seem to carry Jeep tools and the Toyota people seem to carry Toyota tools. And it only comes down to like, if it's you and if you're headed out there and you find a random stranger and then you only have your specific tools, then you can't help that other off-brand vehicle. Mm-hmm. I mean, carry all tools if you don't care about the weight and space. I think that is a great motto. I think that's totally doable. I carry way more tools than I need, but I don't carry all tools. Yeah. I don't know. So I do think that there's something to be said about, always try to help out others whenever you can.
Yep, I agree. And same thing. I have a big old tool roll that it's way heavier than it should be. So
yeah, I have like a toolbox and a tool roll that I take. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of crossover. I think that might be primarily what we're kind of talking about. Mm-hmm. Is like, how many 10 millimeter sockets do you actually need? At
least 6.
I agree.
Yeah.
But you only need 1 14.
Yeah.
Right. So, exactly. Do you need 2? Do I need a short socket 14, a deep socket 14, a 12-point 14, and a wrench? Box end wrench 14 and, a 1/2-inch drive 14 and a 1/4-inch drive 14. How many of those versions do I actually need?
Yeah.
Or can I get away with a 3/8 6-point 14 shallow and deep and then, or maybe a 3/8 shallow 14 point, a 1/2-inch deep 14 point and a box end wrench.
Yeah.
And that's all you need. You don't need all of the other stuff. So I think there's something about it to be said about slimming down your tool bag so you don't have a ton of duplicates.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, I only carry a 10, a 12, a 14, a 17, and a 19, and that's all I have on my rig.
Yeah.
As much as I would love to change all the hardware on my rig to be one of those combos.
Yeah,
so
right.
that's all I'd ever have to carry.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about HighSierra4x4?
Sure. HighSierra4x4 was 2 awesome dudes named Greg and Jeff Bakken, the Bakken brothers.
Yep.
That they were brothers. And they lived
around the Sacramento area.
Sacramento area. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, not for some reason, I was a big fan of the podcast. I really enjoyed listening. And when I found out that they lived in the Sacramento area, I was like, I got to meet these guys.
Right.
And so it just so happened I was out on Hellhole with my dad and my uncle, and some guys came through. They were coming out while we were going in. Mm-hmm. And we started talking and just kind of BSing around because we had met at the creek corner.
Yeah.
The corner, the hard part of the trail there.
Yeah. So you were stopped on your way down and they were coming up it?
Yep. They were coming up it and we were stopped at the top, right? So we're sitting there just chatting and one of them had a dead vehicle. So they were essentially towing a dead vehicle out up through there.
Was it a Nissan?
It was a Dodge, I believe.
The Dodge.
Truck.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the square body Dodges. So chatting with these guys and just goofing around, having a good time. And for some reason we started talking about samurais.
Oh.
And I was like, there's a guy on this podcast I listen to that's working on his samurai. He kind of just got it, moved over to a samurai. He's building it up. And it was Forrest.
Yeah.
Forrest was kind of like the third wheel.
Kind of. Yeah.
on HighSierra4x4. And so they were like, oh, are you talking about HighSierra4x4? And I was like, I am. He goes, the 2 brothers that run that show, they're in our off-road club.
Oh. Yeah.
I was like, no shit.
Yeah.
And so I started talking about their club, when they meet, all this other stuff.
So you stalked them.
I kind of did. Yeah. I fanboyed out and stalked Greg and Jeff for a little bit. And then that was also about the time when I was doing a bunch of ham radio stuff.
Right.
I was teaching the classes. I was getting people certified, licensed, unlocking, doing all the stuff. And so I was working on doing some stuff for their club with ham radio things. And they asked me to come on and do a ham radio episode.
Yeah.
And it happened to be episode 300 and 301.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because they didn't tell me.
No, they said, "Hey, welcome to episode 300," and you're like, "This is a big thing. Why am I here?
Why do I do it here?"
Yeah.
So, really cool guys, super fun, really nice guys, really knowledgeable guys. Jeff, super gifted with his hands. He loves working on things. Yeah, he is, man. And he's got some big hands too, so it's like he gets a lot of work done. And then Greg is like the researcher of everything, right?
Yeah.
So combined, they work out really well together. They're a great dynamic. And it kind of started getting to the point where they were looking at pulling back a little bit. I think that they had been doing the podcasts for so long, but they weren't really getting rewarded for doing the podcast. Like they weren't really making any money off of it. They were still spending their own money. I don't think they were like the bills weren't getting paid through the podcast. So it kind of got to the point where you do that for so long, you just burn out.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think they were just starting to get to the point where they were getting burned out. And Greg had a kid coming. And then he had a second kid coming. And so right around that time,
and priorities really change when you have to care for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. And so Greg was really kind of like the main host of the podcast. He put together the recording schedule, put together the topics most of the time. And Jeff was a lot of the hands-on experience building things part of the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And so they got to a point where their priorities were just changing. I think they were getting burned out of the podcast a little bit, and they were starting to skip episodes.
They were missing weeks.
They were missing weeks, right?
Yeah.
And
they were repeating. They were playing like, "Oh, this was a great episode. SEMA's going on right now, and this was a great episode of the time we visited SEMA. I hope you guys enjoy."
Yeah. So Jimmy and I kind of saw that Jimmy was a fan of the show too. And we were both like, well, we don't want to see High Sierra die out.
No.
And we're kind of interested. You were doing a lot of YouTube at the time. I was starting to come over and help with the YouTube videos, a lot on the back end of stuff, filming and getting everything done. And so we were kind of like, well, we love sitting down talking about Toyota stuff. Yeah. So we kind of approached Greg and Jeff about the idea of coming in and doing like every other week would be some Toyota content.
Right. With sort of the idea of like, hey, we noticed that you guys are having problems, like you're skipping every other week. Well, why don't we come in and fill in those weeks?
Yeah.
So then you don't feel as bad.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're like, oh, I'm missing a week and we didn't do anything, whatever. It's like, no, we'll take that slack up and we'll do this. We'll cover those weeks for you. We'll start a Toyota segment of the HighSierra4x4.
Yeah, exactly. And so that went on for about 6 months. We were able to do that. And then Jimmy and I decided we were having too much fun with it and that we kind of wanted to be under our own umbrella and do our own thing. And so they were kind enough to let us have that kind of springboard to say, hey guys, this is going to be our last episode here on HighSierra4x4. Come follow us over on SnailTrail4x4. We love Greg and Jeff. We love the podcast. We're just ready to kind of go out from under their wings and do our own thing now.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so,
I think some of the things that happened on their back end was that, Greg had 2 kids right there at the very end.
Yep.
And then Jeff moved to Minnesota. And that was like right at the end of everything, and it was just Riverside wasn't around, all these great software that happened pretty much during COVID times.
Yeah.
Right. All these amazing things to get podcasts done remotely.
Yeah. Remote technology
was not available at that time. And it would have been like, oh, we're trying to record over Skype or Google Meets or, all these softwares that don't really do much for podcasting.
Yeah.
And it just became, I think, a bigger headache for them.
Yeah.
Being so far away and more or less starting new lives in an essence, with Jeff moving to Minnesota, getting married, marrying into a family that had kids already.
Yep.
And, Greg having two younger daughters with one of them was preemie too. There was a complication or something.
Yeah.
Something happened at the beginning on, I think, the first child and was very difficult. And they just had to take a pause on everything so that they could deal with the kiddo. So,
Both of them are doing great though.
They are.
They're doing awesome. Greg is loving mountain biking with his daughters lately. Yeah. It's been fun to watch. You guys can follow along with his adventures on Instagram. I believe it's Greg Bakken, right? Is just its first last name on Instagram. And then Jeff doesn't really post on Instagram at all anymore.
Jeff does no social media.
Yeah, he's not a social media guy.
Yeah.
But he has, I guess, his own kid now. I hate to put it that way. Like he married into 2 kids and then they had a third.
Right.
So he's got multiple kids around the house running around out in acreage. So he's having a lot of fun getting them just being wild kids out in acreage in Minnesota. Right. And Greg's having a lot of fun with his 2 girls getting into the outdoors as well. So it's really fun. They're in a really good spot in life. They're doing great. Yeah, it's a kind of a fun question, I guess, to reminisce back on the High Sierra days.
Like 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're both great. And Greg has been on our show a few times, I think.
Yep.
And I know that he has expressed a little bit of interest about trying to start everything back up, but I think it's just a thing that he would love to do and is difficult to do at the same time.
Yeah.
But I did look it up. It is Greg Bakken, Bakken. I'll put that link down in the show notes if you do want to connect with Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think he would actually appreciate it coming from somebody that has listened to the HighSierra4x4 ones.
Yep. I agree.
Okay, let's move on to Richard's. Are we only going to get through like one person this week?
Maybe.
Richard had a question about podcast gear.
Yep. And here's his second voicemail to follow up that.
All right.
Yeah, it's Richard again. I hit that 3-minute thing. I need to quit doing that. Anyway, I was just giving you guys a compliment. You guys seem to, from an audible standpoint, just listening to the podcast in the car with that little den couch area kind of space you guys have, are doing great. So we're just curious about your current equipment use, any future plans on, the stuff you see on other podcast shows and stuff, the other microphones and stuff to kind of free up your hands, or if it's just sustainable what you guys are using. And yeah, I just wanted to go over the tool idea and then kind of just an explanation for maybe viewers just starting to listen in on the whole High Sierra snail trail thing, just to kind of go over the past again. I'm not sure if that's even on what I should be saying. Anyway, from one confused Jeep guy to a bunch of Toyota guys, keep crawling.
You can fix that problem, Richard.
I think you have a Toyota. Isn't that you called in originally to ask about your mini truck?
Yeah.
No, I don't classify yourself don't put yourself in that category.
Yeah. Good question. Equipment. I mean, definitely. It seems like the microphone that a lot of podcasters use out there is the Rode. Not the Rodecaster. That's the board.
It's called the Rode mic.
The Rode mic.
Pod mic.
Pod mic. That's what it is. The Rodecaster pod mic. And it's a great microphone. We actually got one and tried it out, and ultimately we ended up liking these Shure SM58 microphones we have.
Yeah. We bought both of them at one point. Yep. We bought the Rode mic and the Shure mic, and sat there and talked into each one for a little while. And I was like, I can't hear a difference. And Tyler's like, I like the Shure. I'm like, okay, well then we're going with the Shure because I can't tell.
Yeah, I could tell a slight difference. And we even sent the audio files to an audiologist, not an audiologist. That's a doctor. Audio geek that does audio stuff professionally. And he said that he thinks the Shure sounded a little bit more full bodied. The thing that I really liked about the Shure is that it is an extremely close range microphone.
Yes.
It's the same microphone that you'll see rock bands, music artists using on stage, because it really only picks up noise like right around the microphone rather than like once you start getting like right now I'm a 10 inches a foot from the microphone and you can barely hear me anymore. We really, in order to get audio in these microphones, you have to really kind of rest it on your chin.
Right. And I think that's one of the reasons, like Tyler has a stand right next to him.
Yeah.
And we used to have stands around us, but the fact that you need to rest the microphone on your chin more or less to get great audio quality out of these things is probably one of the reasons we don't use a stand. The reason this is a dynamic mic.
Yep.
And the reason we like dynamic microphones is because if somebody's walking around in the lobby or somebody's coming in and out of the door or somebody's talking in the other room, you're not going to hear them. If there's a whole nother warehouse on the backside of this wall that plays rock music when we are recording sometimes, and we can hear it in our ears through our headphones that we wear, but you don't pick it up through the microphone because it only picks up this small area around here.
Or like, say, if I'm coughing a lot, it's much easier to drop the microphone and turn my head away rather than having the microphone on a stand right in front of my face. It's harder to get away from the microphone if we're coughing or sneezing or.
Plus, we seem to move around a lot, so that's why we have it in our hands and not on a stand. But we do have plans. If you do check out the YouTube video, we do have plans to revamp the studio. We are going. We just need to do it. We have, I think, everything to do it. We just don't have the time. That's really the thing, the gist of it. We've got 2 TVs. We're going to we're going to add one on one wall and one on the other wall so that they reflect each other so that we can look at the camera, which has a TV behind it. So we can get an understanding of what we're seeing and what's happening. And then we can show you guys things on the TV. We got a bunch of license plates that listeners have donated that we're going to put up and around here. I'm curious how the audio quality is going to affect with all these metal parts on the wall. I have my old college bar top is going to be made into a table, and we're going to use that as the main counter in this area. And we're going to go from there, figure out how to get some chairs, get rid of the couch, get rid of, I don't know, maybe we can reuse these seats that Tyler made.
These are from my second gen 4Runner.
Yep, they are. But I think the microphone is a key to really good quality.
For sure.
Plus, we have the Rodecaster sound control, like soundboard that has a lot of really cool features into it, and it makes editing really easy. I don't think there's much necessarily that we can improve besides maybe getting better microphones and go up to the Shure 7B. Which is, I think these are about $100 a microphone, and the Shure is the 7B is like $500 a microphone. So, and is it are we getting 5 times better audio quality? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. And speaking of HighSierra4x4, Greg is actually the one that really we learned about audio quality from, and the importance of audio quality, right? So it's definitely, and then we both listen to podcasts all the time. It's like, you may have good content, but if you have terrible audio quality, I can't listen to it.
And that goes for YouTube. You can watch a YouTube video, and if the video is shitty but the audio quality is good, you can watch the video. But if it's good video quality but really bad audio, you're not going to watch that. You're going to move on to the next thing. So it's interesting how audio quality really, really matters. Now, I will also say that we have a camera going, but the audio that is coming into that camera, we don't use. We use the audio that comes from the soundboard. We do have a cable, an XLR cable that goes from the soundboard to the camera, and I only use that audio to sync up the audio that we record from our microphones
with the video.
And because we get for whatever reason, I mean, I'm sure it's plenty good. And we've failed. I forgot to hit record one time on the soundboard and something happened on our backup, because we do have a backup system over here. And I had to use the audio quality from the mic or from the camera, and it sounded fine. So I think that throughout the 6 years, we put a little bit of time and effort and money from you guys, our supporters, back into the podcast to get some decent gear. And it seems to work good. I mean, I think the next level, if we really cared about it or wanted to go this way, would be to have a dedicated person to sit at the end of the table with a monitor and having headphones on him and a switchboard, switching between cameras and microphones and things happening so that we could do kind of a live thing that is switching often, and somebody is sort of controlling those things, and multiple cameras, multiple angles. And so the next level is a very big jump. And I don't know if it's something we even are worried about. At this point in time, our YouTube podcast is not really doing much. It's just another way for somebody to find us.
Cool. That's we're 30 minutes into snail mail.
Yeah, but we had 5 minutes of snail armor talk. Let's do one more so we get Richard doesn't steal the show here.
I like it though. Those are some fun topics.
He did ask 3 questions.
True. Yeah.
And 2 voicemails. So.
All right. Next up then is Zach from Oklahoma.
All right, Zach.
Tourniquet topics.
Ooh,
I'm curious. Here we go.
What's up, Jimmy and Tyler? Zach from Oklahoma, calling about tourniquets. I know y'all just opened up that tourniquet that was in that little med pack. I had to reference the video to see what the tourniquet looked like. It looked like a tourniquet, but it just didn't have the rod on there that you're supposed to twist. I have a tourniquet in my truck that I got from Stop the Bleeding training that I did for work-related things. But you probably could just twist the stick that you find on the trail into it to make sure that you create the tension needed to stop the bleeding and stuff. So, but honestly, most of the time when people are on the trail, they probably won't have all the stuff. So use a t-shirt, use something to kind of like twist around if need be. Also the rag, not just to put over the wound to stop the bleeding. Sometimes you may have to stuff it in the wound to stop the bleeding. And you can't go wrong with stuffing the wound and doing a tourniquet at the same time. Because whatever keeps them from losing their arm or losing too much blood is the goal. So I haven't had to use mine, but I've had to do a makeshift tourniquet on myself because I had a mountain bike accident a couple years ago. And yeah, no, it was pretty bad, but I'm fine now. Anyways, y'all have a good day. Keep growing, and hopefully you don't have to use a tourniquet. All right, see y'all.
I agree.
I hope I don't have to ever use a tourniquet.
I'm not trained in tourniquets. I have a wilderness first aid certification, which helps you essentially take care of a patient for up to 8 hours using wilderness resources, typically kind of thing, and creative ways to create splints and
sure. Yeah.
Keep things from moving that shouldn't be moving after an accident. But they did not go over tourniquet stuff. And so I'm not even going to touch the topic of how to properly use them what they.
Well, that was what I was going to say is I think tourniquets are a life and death situations when you're going to be using them, and you should properly know how to use them. And just, you can damage somebody by over tightening it that might not need a tourniquet. So there is a balance there to trying to figure it out. And I don't want to go too deep into a topic that I really don't know an immense amount about, but just be careful to use them and consider, when to use them well.
Yeah.
But I do think proper training, like the wilderness one, just getting some basic first aid experience or maybe do this blood thing that Zach did.
Stop the bleeding
are all great things to, to go out and learn. We do put ourselves into interesting situations that are potentially very hazardous to our bodies or possibly others. And it's not a bad thing to have a good understanding of how to help or save somebody when it comes down to it.
Yep.
I also want to say, Zach, you never cease to surprise me.
Yeah.
Like you have a very interesting background on a lot of random things, and the stop the bleeding thing's just an added bonus to one of the, it's just like, what else do you do, man? It's just wild.
Do you think he'd be really good at Trivial Pursuit?
I bet he would. Yeah, I want you on my trivia team when we go to the bars.
All right, let's see. One more?
Yeah, let's do one more.
All right, Ken from Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Here we go.
The quarter of the population right here.
Yep.
Hey guys, this is Ken from Wyoming again. Had an interesting interaction with some landowners that are around kind of a BLM island nearby. The area I live in, we don't have much camping nearby, and what is there gets shut down for a couple of months a year. So we have kind of a preseason, and we attempted to go camp on BLM land last weekend, and we were up there. It was okay. It was a decent spot, but I had to get talked to by a couple of those landowners, and they came up and pointed out that, hey, you trespassed to get here. And sure enough, it was my mistake. I didn't zoom in close enough on the Onyx map to see the little private road word. There was like a Y in the road, and one was marked private, and one I didn't think was going off to BLM, so I thought it was okay. But anyway, so we were camping up there, and I just thought it was interesting that they had some trouble with trash and just people making messes and even fire to a certain extent. I didn't quite understand what he was talking about in that, but their gut reaction was to shut it down. So, for all the efforts that we do to keep public land open, these were probably, not to get political, but probably fairly conservative people in that they were ranchers and construction people, because I actually figured out a distant connection with one of them, with the construction guy. But their gut reaction, because they felt like they were having to clean up after people, was to shut down, like don't allow anybody on their driveway to get to the BLM land anymore. So I just thought it was pretty discouraging, and I just keep thinking about different ways they could have handled it. I mean, they could put up a sign saying, hey, you are entering private land on your way to BLM. Please, respect our land. Go past the BLM land to one of the landowners' property. They had a gate that could easily have been locked and closed and marked no trespassing. There was nothing like that. It was treated just like every other, wire fence. So I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting interaction I had. It got me thinking about a lot about that stuff, but just the fact that once it was personal and affecting them, their gut reaction was to shut it down. So I might try to connect with one of those guys, the construction guy, again, and just chat with him. But I just thought you guys might be interested. So appreciate the show. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah. I think that if they're upset at people trashing it, obviously you're like, well, then you can't trust anyone, so we got to close it down. I understand their side of things.
Their sentiment,
they're not thinking about what could be done, because what they only see the side of like, now I have to pick up this trash, right? I'm having to deal with this problem because people are coming out here. Yeah. So I don't want people out here. So I understand where they're coming from. What I think needs to happen is some people need to step up. Education needs to happen.
That was going to be my first thing. Yeah.
First thing, education needs to happen, whether they need signs, multiple signs, and maybe people can help them build the signs, or the construction guy can build the signs and somebody can paint signs or something saying like, this is private property, please clean up after yourself, or this is private property, please be, courteous, or whatever they need to state. I mean, that could be something. You could have like maybe you can organize a club in the area to go out there and do cleanups for them. You could work with BLM to maybe reroute the trail around their property. I don't know, but that one sounds really difficult. But I mean, I'm just thinking out of my rear end here. So
from my understanding, it's a piece of public land that's landlocked. He said it's a BLM island.
Okay.
So I
took it the other way around. I took their private property was locked.
the island.
Yeah.
I think it sounds to me like because he had to go through the private property to get to the BLM land. Otherwise you'd go around the private property to get to the public land usually.
Regardless,
if there's a piece of public land that's landlocked by private owners, typically there has to be easements involved somewhere.
Yes.
Because you can't have, at least I don't know the exact ruling on this. My understanding is that you cannot have public land without an access to that public land. And so if there's land available for people to get on, there needs to be legal access to it. That's typically done through easements, right?
Yes.
So I would imagine there's easements with the private property owners. And my guess is that they're just trying to illegally cancel their easements because they're tired of dealing with people's trash.
Maybe.
Which I totally get. And I don't know if I do the same thing, but I understand, I empathize with why they're trying to close the easements.
Yeah.
Either BLM needs to come out and take care of their easement, or in my opinion, the way that really helps hit home to people using the easements public is to do adopt a trail sections. Yeah. In my opinion, the strongest way to get people to respect the land and take care of the trails is to have them responsible for the trails.
Sure. Absolutely.
And so
or a trail, because then you're responsible on other trails afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of adopt a trail programs. And that's what I would say. If you have like a group of people that like and enjoy using that landlocked BLM area, try and congregate people together and coordinate people together to start adopt a trail sections. And then it sounds like you've made contact with property owners. You know how to get hold of at least one of them. So I would recommend, trying to reach out to the private property owners and say, hey, look, totally get it. There's a bunch of people that like using the BLM land and are offering to help clean up the easement trails. So you guys don't have to. Would you give us permission to kind of take on that responsibility? And usually when you can build good relationships with private property owners, it typically goes really well. Whereas if you sometimes building good relationships with government agencies can be very good one day and then bad the next day because jobs overturn a lot quicker than typically property owners do.
Yeah.
So you may not know who the next manager is coming into a government agency. So it's a little bit less risky to build relationships with private property owners. You just have to do the groundwork to build the relationships. And all I can say is showing empathy and really reminding them that you totally understand where they're coming from and you want to help come up with a solution so that they don't have to worry about these easement trails anymore.
Right.
So,
yeah. And, obviously, Ken, you're not the problem.
Yeah.
Because you're listening to us.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's obvious. But it's people that aren't educated, that don't understand that, and as much as I don't want to say it, it's probably a bunch of teenagers that are, just don't have the understanding that this is a good or bad thing and just want to go out into this area and kind of party and hang out and then just leave trash everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I think, education comes full circle with some of these people that, some kids like to go out and experience nature, and then some kids like to go out and have fun any way they can. So
without consequences.
Without consequences. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Thank you. And so it's, I think signs or adopt a trail or whatever you can do to ease the landowners' minds would help to keep that easement or that trail open. Yep.
There's a section of Mormon Immigrant Trail that is technically an easement between a couple private property owners.
Oh yeah.
And every year during the winter, they try and cause a ruckus to get Mormon Immigrant shut down.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't blame them. Mormon Immigrant becomes a complete shit show a lot during the winter. But at the same time, if you take that down, where are people going to go play?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go play in other places that's going to be just as destructive. At least here we can monitor it easy and enforcement can get there easy. So
yeah,
if there's any issues, enforcement can get out there and take care of them.
There's like a substation right around the corner. Yeah. That's funny. So, all right, Ken, thanks for calling. Thanks for telling us that it's not just California that has problems, but
it's a people problem. Like I keep saying, it's not a trail problem. It's not a user problem. It's just a people problem.
Right. So, I agree. And I thought all of Wyoming was conservative.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like Idaho, right?
Yeah. It's not like California.
No. That's funny. All right. Well, that does it for today. We got a couple of really good questions. Got some really cool, I think, topics came out of it. So
yeah,
some fun information out there for people. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to call in if you guys have feedback for us. 916-345-4744. If you have a complaint, you want to complain about whatever's going on with the show, you're not happy about something we said, we do have a specific complaint hotline. We kind of get to those voicemails a lot quicker. Typically it's 408-800-5169. 4169, 5169. I forget that.
5169.
408-800-5169. I think it's 5169. So 408-800-5169. Call and, let us know that feedback, that negative stuff over there. And we typically clear out that voicemail and listen to it a lot quicker than our normal one. So,
well, yeah, because we never get any calls really. So
yeah, right.
Occasionally when we do, we go, oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep. So cool. Give us a call, and we love chatting with you guys. Love hearing your feedback. So do it. Is that it? Are we done?
I think that's it.
Are we done? We don't know how to close this out. We're kind of like our listeners.
Kind of. Peace out. Owie. Wasabi.
We're done.
All right.
The number you have called has been disconnected.